The galaxy of ***. Warhammer 40,000*** is a place of ceaseless strife and lurking terror, where ancient mysteries haunt every corner of existence. Among the countless horrors that plague the universe, few possess the enigmatic and insidious nature of the ***Enslavers ***, entities that defy easy classification. These creatures, whose origins are shrouded in obscurity, represent a chilling reminder of the dangers posed by the Immaterium and its interaction with the material realm. The Enslavers are not like the well-documented demonic legions or the recognizable terrors of the xenos races. They seem to belong to a category all their own, a threat that operates in silence and strikes when the conditions are most perilous. Unlike other entities that rely on brute strength or vast armies, the Enslavers are subtle manipulators, infiltrating the minds of psychers and bending them to their will. Through their actions, they leave devastation in their wake, corrupting entire planets and turning them into staging grounds for further incursions. But what are these beings? Their very existence raises tantalizing questions. Are they truly independent entities? Or are they remnants of an ancient and forgotten race? Could they be survivors of a pre-imperial civilization? Or do they represent some deeper, primal aspect of the Immaterium itself? The truth of their origin has long eluded even the most diligent scholars of the ***, Ordo Xenos ***, and the ***, Adeptus Mechanicus ***, leaving only fragmented records and wild speculation. The universe of Warhammer 40,000 is not kind to those who seek to uncover its secrets. Knowledge is often as dangerous as ignorance, and many who delve too deeply into the mystery of the Enslavers find themselves ensnared by their influence. Yet, the questions persist, whispered among the hidden cabals of the Inquisition, debated by rogue scholars, and even feared by the ***, Black Library ***, of the Elder. To understand the Enslavers, one must first grasp the delicate balance between the material universe and the Immaterium, the psychic realm that mirrors and influences reality. It is a place of chaos and unformed thought, inhabited by beings whose nature is antithetical to life as we know it. The Enslavers operate within this realm, exploiting its instability and seeking entry into the material world. This is a tale of uncertainty and dread, where every revelation raises more questions than answers. As we journey through the fragmented history and speculative lore surrounding the Enslavers, remember that even the most terrifying truths are but shadows of a greater darkness. The answers we seek may reveal not just the origins of the Enslavers, but also the limits of what the mortal mind can endure when confronting the unknown. Thus begins our investigation into one of the most unsettling enigmas of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Are the Enslavers simply predators of the Immaterium, or are they something far more ancient and profound? To unravel this mystery, we must piece together fragments of lore and confront the implications of their existence, a task as dangerous as the Enslavers themselves. The narrative of the Enslavers involves a diverse array of participants, each playing a distinct role in the broader tapestry of this mystery. These entities, factions, and individuals contribute to the unfolding events, each bringing their unique perspective, strengths, and vulnerabilities to the table. Together, they form a complex network of influence and action, essential to understanding the scope of the Enslavers' presence and potential origins. The Enslavers themselves are the central figures in this saga. Their enigmatic nature makes them a subject of fascination and fear. They are entities of the Immaterium, existing in a space between the defined and the unknowable. While their true form remains a subject of debate, they are known for their parasitic relationship with psychers. Their ability to manipulate and dominate minds sets them apart from other creatures of the warp, marking them as a unique force within the galaxy. They are not mere invaders, but something more profound, possibly linked to an ancient past. Humanity, as represented by the Imperium of Man, also plays a critical role in this narrative. Psykers, those gifted or cursed with the ability to channel the energies of the warp, are particularly vulnerable to the Enslavers. The Imperium's rigid stance on Psykers, enforcing control through the Black Ships and the Scholastica Psychina, reflects its awareness of the dangers these individuals pose, both as assets and potential liabilities. The Inquisition, especially the Ordo Xenos, stands at the forefront of humanity's efforts to understand and combat the Enslavers, though often at great cost. Explorators and rogue traders, operating on the fringes of the galaxy, inadvertently uncover remnants or signs of enslaver activity, often paying a steep price for their curiosity. The Eldar, an ancient and enigmatic race, are deeply intertwined with the mystery of the Enslavers. Their long history grants them a perspective that stretches back to times before the rise of humanity. Fragments of their lore hint at encounters with the Enslavers, though the full extent of their knowledge is jealously guarded by the seers and scholars of the Black Library. The Eldar view the Enslavers with a mixture of fear and disdain, understanding the profound danger these creatures pose to the balance of the warp and reality. The Necrons, another ancient power, bring a unique perspective to the narrative. Their disdain for the warp and its denizens is well known, and their technology is specifically designed to sever the influence of the Immaterium. While the Necrons themselves have little to say about the Enslavers, their silent kings and cryptex may harbor ancient records or insights into these entities, buried within the depths of their stasis crypts. The relationship between the Enslavers and the Necrons, if it exists, remains an enigma, but it is a thread that cannot be ignored. The Adeptus Mechanicus, ever in pursuit of knowledge, plays an integral role in humanity's response to the Enslavers. Their explorations into lost worlds and their excavation of ancient technologies often bring them into contact with signs of these warp entities. Their obsession with recovering and understanding the remnants of the past makes them both a critical asset and a dangerous liability, as their pursuits sometimes lead to unintended consequences. Among the warp entities themselves, the Enslavers are not alone. Other beings of the Immaterium may interact with or oppose them, though such relationships are poorly understood. Demons of chaos, driven by the will of the Chaos Gods, may clash with the Enslavers over dominance of a Psyker's mind or control of a world. Alternatively, they may view the Enslavers as tools or obstacles in their own schemes. These interactions add another layer of complexity to the Enslavers' place within the Immaterium. The Orcs, ever present in the galaxy, are an unexpected yet relevant player in this story. While their innate resistance to psychic manipulation makes them less likely to fall prey to the Enslavers, their penchant for destruction and chaos often brings them into the path of these entities. Encounters between Orcs and Enslavers, though rare, can lead to unpredictable outcomes, adding yet another unpredictable variable to an already volatile situation. Finally, scattered throughout the galaxy are independent agents and organizations whose encounters with the Enslavers leave their mark. Rogue Psykers who operate beyond the reach of the Imperium are frequent victims of these creatures. Scholars, renegades, and outcasts who seek forbidden knowledge often stumble upon traces of the Enslavers, sometimes unwittingly becoming their instruments. These individuals and groups, while minor compared to the great factions, play a crucial role in propagating the Enslavers' influence or uncovering the fragments of their history. The tapestry of this story is woven from the threads of these diverse participants. Each faction, individual, and entity contributes to the unfolding mystery, their actions intersecting in ways that highlight the intricate and perilous nature of the galaxy. As we delve deeper into the history and significance of the Enslavers, these players will remain central to our understanding of their origins and their role in the endless struggle for survival and dominance. The origins of the Enslavers are deeply entwined with the ancient history of the galaxy, stretching back to epochs when the Immaterium and the material realm were not yet fully separated. Long before humanity rose to prominence, before the Eldar's ascension, And even before the Necrontyr waged their war against the Old Ones, the Immaterium was a far less volatile place. It existed as a mirror to the thoughts and emotions of sentient beings, relatively calm and stable. However, this equilibrium would not last. As the first sentient races began to flourish in the galaxy, their psychic emanations grew stronger, feeding the warp with emotions and creating disturbances within its once serene fabric. Chief among these early civilizations were the Old Ones, a race of extraordinary intelligence and immense psychic power. The Old Ones shaped the evolution of many younger species, crafting them as tools for their own purposes and imbuing some with a deep connection to the Immaterium. This meddling had unintended consequences as the burgeoning psychic activity began to disrupt the warp, introducing chaos and instability. Amid this growing turbulence, new entities emerged from the Immaterium, formed by the interplay of psychic energies and the latent thoughts of countless beings. These creatures were not demons as they are understood today, nor were they tied to any specific deity. Instead, they were proto-entities, amorphous and formless, shaped only by the raw psychic energies that birthed them. Among these early warp-born beings, the precursors to the Enslavers began to take shape. They were not created intentionally, but were the byproduct of the chaos unleashed by the psychic meddling of the Old Ones. The first recorded manifestations of these entities occurred during the apex of the War in Heaven, the devastating conflict between the Old Ones and the Necrontyr. As the Necrontyr allied with the Catan and unleashed devastating weapons that tore through the galaxy, the Old Ones relied increasingly on their psychic creations to combat their foes. The intensity of this war caused a psychic upheaval of unprecedented scale, further destabilizing the warp and giving rise to new and dangerous phenomena. It was during this era of upheaval that the Enslavers began to emerge as a distinct threat. They found fertile ground in the psychic turmoil of the war, exploiting the minds of vulnerable psychers to gain access to the material realm. Their method of manifestation was parasitic. They latched onto the minds of the psychically gifted, using them as gateways to enter the physical universe. This tactic allowed them to spread rapidly, as each victim became a beacon for more of their kind. The precise nature of their relationship with the Old Ones is unclear, but some theories suggest that the Enslavers may have been an unintended consequence of the Old Ones' reliance on psychic warfare. As the Old Ones created more psychically attuned species, the Enslavers adapted and evolved, honing their ability to manipulate and dominate these beings. This adaptation marked the beginning of their reign of terror as they turned the very tools of the Old Ones against them. The collapse of the Old Ones and the subsequent rise of the Eldar marked the end of the War in Heaven, but the Enslavers did not vanish. Instead, they lingered in the shadows of the Immaterium, waiting for opportunities to re-emerge. Their activity became less frequent as the warp grew more chaotic, and the emergence of the Chaos Gods introduced new dynamics to the Immaterium. However, their presence was never entirely extinguished, and they remained a lingering threat to any who dared to tread too deeply into the psychic realm. The first human records of the Enslavers date back to the Dark Age of technology, a period when humanity's reliance on psychic navigation and communication reached its zenith. As human psychers began to proliferate, the Enslavers found new prey to exploit. Their incursions became more frequent, targeting isolated colonies and cutting them off from the wider human empire. These early encounters were poorly understood, and the fragmented records from this era describe them only as shadowy predators of the mind. Through every era of galactic history, the Enslavers have demonstrated a unique ability to exploit the psychic weaknesses of sentient beings. While their exact origins remain a mystery, their rise can be traced to the unintended consequences of ancient meddling in the Immaterium. This chain of events set the stage for their enduring presence, marking them as one of the galaxy's most insidious and persistent threats. Their story is a reminder of the dangers of tampering with forces beyond comprehension. a cautionary tale etched into the annals of galactic history. The Enslavers' development and their actions throughout the ages reveal a disturbing trajectory of adaptation, expansion, and exploitation. Their history is marked by calculated evolution, utilizing the psychic energies of the galaxy to gain entry into the material realm and establish their dominance. Unlike many other entities of the Immaterium, the Enslavers do not wage war openly. Their actions are defined by subversion and manipulation, turning their prey into unwitting tools for their own survival and propagation. The earliest phases of their activity were shaped by the chaotic psychic environment created during the War in Heaven. During this time, the Enslavers' methods were opportunistic, capitalizing on the unstable boundaries between the warp and real space. They identified vulnerable psychers as their primary conduits, infiltrating their minds and overriding their will. Once a psyker was fully compromised, the Enslavers could force open a rift between dimensions, allowing their physical forms to emerge. This process marked the beginning of their distinct modus operandi, targeting psychers to establish beachheads in the material world. Their incursions followed a predictable yet devastating pattern. After entering real space, the Enslavers would quickly establish control over the psyker population in their vicinity, turning them into extensions of their will. Entire settlements and colonies fell into chaos as the Enslavers manipulated their victims to create new warp breaches, allowing more of their kind to pour through. This cascading effect transformed isolated incidents into galaxy-wide threats, spreading like an infectious psychic plague. As the warp grew more turbulent and the Chaos Gods solidified their presence, the Enslavers adjusted their approach. They became more selective in their incursions, targeting regions of the galaxy where psychic activity was both strong and poorly monitored. This shift in strategy ensured their survival, allowing them to avoid direct confrontations with chaos entities or factions like the Eldar, who were increasingly vigilant against warp incursions. During the Dark Age of technology, the Enslavers reached a new stage in their development. Humanity's widespread use of psychic technology provided fertile ground for their schemes. The establishment of psychic communication relays and warp-based transportation networks created countless points of entry for these entities. They began to exploit not just individual psychers, but entire systems reliant on psychic infrastructure. This marked an era of unprecedented expansion for the Enslavers, as their influence spread through humanity's fledgling empire like wildfire. Entire planets were consumed, their populations enslaved or destroyed, leaving only husks where thriving civilizations once stood. Despite their successes, the Enslavers faced significant challenges during the Age of Strife. As warp storms cut off entire sectors of the galaxy, their access to new prey diminished. These disruptions forced them into a period of dormancy, lying in wait for the conditions to shift once more in their favor. This period of relative inactivity allowed other factions, such as humanity's fledgling Imperium, to develop strategies to counteract their incursions, albeit at a terrible cost. The return of stability under the Imperium presented both opportunities and dangers for the Enslavers. While the Imperium's rigid control over psychers and its establishment of organizations like the Inquisition created obstacles, these measures were far from foolproof. Rogue psychers, unsanctioned warp experiments, and forgotten colonies provided ample opportunities for the Enslavers to resume their operations. They adapted once more, focusing on isolated or neglected regions where Imperial oversight was weak. This strategy allowed them to continue their incursions without attracting widespread attention. Interactions with other factions revealed the Enslavers' ability to manipulate diverse environments and prey. Their encounters with the Eldar showcased their capacity to exploit even advanced psychic defenses, although the Eldar's vigilance often mitigates the damage. The Orcs, with their innate resistance to psychic domination, present a different challenge, yet their chaotic nature occasionally leads to unintentional aid in spreading the Enslavers' influence. Encounters with the Necrons are less common, as the Necrons' disdain for the warp often makes their worlds inhospitable to such incursions. However, when these encounters do occur, the enslavers typically avoid direct conflict, recognizing the technological superiority of their ancient adversaries. In the current era, the enslavers remain a persistent, albeit sporadic, threat. Their presence is most often detected in regions where the Imperium's control is weakest or where psychers operate unchecked. Reports of their activity are fragmented, often dismissed as isolated incidents or exaggerated tales from frontier worlds. Yet, their impact is undeniable. Each incursion leaves a trail of devastation, disrupting local systems and drawing the attention of factions such as the Inquisition or the Adeptus Mechanicus. The enslavers' actions are not random but calculated, guided by their unyielding drive to expand and survive. They exploit vulnerabilities in the galaxy's psychic landscape, adapting their strategies to overcome resistance and ensure their continued existence. Their ability to manipulate, dominate, and devastate makes them a unique and enduring threat, one that persists despite the countless efforts to eradicate them. Their trajectory through galactic history reflects their cunning and resilience, ensuring that their presence will remain a source of dread for millennia to come. The defining moment in understanding the enslavers' origins lies in the gradual unraveling of their potential connection to one of the most ancient and enigmatic races to ever exist in the galaxy, the Old Ones. These beings, whose mastery over the immaterium and genetic manipulation was unparalleled, are often considered the architects of many of the galaxy's early sentient species. The enslavers, through careful analysis of fragmented evidence and ancient records, appear to be intrinsically linked to the downfall of this once great race, though not in the way most would initially assume. The crux of this revelation lies in the unintended consequences of the Old Ones' grand designs. As the Old Ones spread their influence across the galaxy, creating species with potent psychic capabilities, they inadvertently sowed the seeds of their own destruction. These creations, such as the Eldar and other lesser-known species, became conduits for increasingly unstable warp energies. The psychic resonance generated by these civilizations began to disrupt the delicate balance of the immaterium, creating an environment where new and unpredictable entities could emerge. The enslavers, it is theorized, were not merely opportunistic predators of this psychic chaos, but were shaped directly by the psychic ecosystem cultivated by the Old Ones. Unlike the warp-born demons that would later rise with the Chaos Gods, the enslavers appear to lack the same direct ties to mortal emotion. This distinction has led many scholars to propose that the enslavers were, in some form, an ancient psychic race that predated or coexisted with the Old Ones, only to be transformed by the immense psychic turbulence generated during the War in Heaven. One critical piece of evidence supporting this theory is the apparent sophistication of the enslavers' psychic abilities. Their capacity to manipulate, dominate, and corrupt psychers is far more refined than the brute force exhibited by most warp entities. This level of precision suggests an origin steeped in purpose and adaptation rather than mere chance. Some speculate that the enslavers were a failed experiment of the Old Ones, designed to act as psychic guardians or mediators of the warp, but corrupted by exposure to the chaos unleashed during the Great War. A pivotal moment in this unfolding narrative came with the discovery of ancient ruins on a forgotten world within the Segmentum Obscurus. These ruins, believed to predate even the rise of the Necron tier, contained cryptic inscriptions and psychic echoes that hinted at a race whose mastery of the warp rivaled that of the Old Ones. Among the fragments recovered was an artifact capable of generating what appeared to be a controlled warp rift. When activated, the device unleashed an energy signature strikingly similar to the disruptions associated with enslaver incursions. This connection has fueled the hypothesis that the enslavers were either a creation or an evolutionary offshoot of this unidentified psychic race. The decisive event, however, came not with the discovery of ancient artifacts, but with the reinterpretation of Eldar records stored within the Black Library. The Eldar, whose history stretches far enough to encompass the final days of the Old Ones, describe entities matching the characteristics of the enslavers long before the rise of chaos. These records speak of a time when the immaterium was less chaotic, but still dangerous, inhabited by creatures that thrived on the psychic energies of sentient beings. The Eldar refer to these beings as Shepherds of the Rift, a title that aligns disturbingly well with the enslavers' manipulative and controlling nature. The war in heaven itself may have acted as the catalyst that allowed the enslavers to ascend from their dormant state. The Old One's desperate reliance on psychic species to combat the Necrons flooded the immaterium with energy, creating the conditions for the enslavers to emerge as dominant predators. In this sense, the enslavers are not merely remnants of an ancient race, but a grim reminder of the unintended consequences of the Old One's actions. Their rise was not an act of malice or design, but a natural response to the conditions created by the galaxy's first Great War. Ultimately, the enslavers serve as a cautionary tale. If they are indeed remnants or descendants of an ancient psychic race, their story underscores the dangers of tampering with the warp without understanding its full implications. Their existence, tied so closely to the rise and fall of the Old Ones, suggests that the enslavers are not mere anomalies, but integral pieces of a larger puzzle. This realization casts a long shadow over the galaxy, for if the enslavers were born of such ancient events, their continued presence hints at secrets and dangers yet to be uncovered. The revelation that the enslavers may be remnants of an ancient psychic race has profound implications for the galaxy and its many inhabitants. This understanding recontextualizes their actions, behaviors, and capabilities, presenting them not as mere predators, but as beings with a deep, intrinsic connection to the fabric of the immaterium and its interplay with the material universe. The idea that they carry the legacy of an advanced civilization opens unsettling questions about their power, motivations, and ultimate purpose. Firstly, the acknowledgement of the enslavers' lineage redefines their abilities. As descendants of a species potentially created or heavily influenced by the Old Ones, their profound psychic capabilities become a testament to ancient mastery over the warp. This connection suggests that their powers are not random mutations or purely parasitic tendencies, but the remnants of a highly sophisticated understanding of psychic energy. The enslavers' ability to control psychers, open warp rifts, and manipulate the immaterium indicates a deliberate and structured design, granting them an edge over other warp entities that thrive on chaos and instinct. This revelation also implies that the enslavers possess knowledge or instincts rooted in an era when the immaterium was far less turbulent. Unlike demons or warp entities born of the chaotic emotions of sentient beings, the enslavers seem to function with a precision that reflects their ancient origins. Their psychic prowess may be part of a forgotten technology or biological adaptation, allowing them to bypass certain limitations that other warp-spawned entities face. This adaptability makes them uniquely dangerous, as they can infiltrate and exploit the weaknesses of even the most well-guarded civilizations. The legacy of an ancient race also raises the possibility that the enslavers retain fragments of their creator's purpose. If they were indeed linked to the Old Ones, their actions may not be entirely opportunistic, but guided by an instinctual drive rooted in their original design. This could mean that their incursions into real space serve a purpose beyond survival, potentially tied to long-forgotten plans or goals of their creators. Such a realization shifts the narrative from viewing the enslavers as a random threat to considering them as active participants in an ancient conflict that continues to echo through the galaxy. The enslavers' role as potential heirs to a lost civilization grants them a level of significance that extends beyond their individual actions. They serve as a reminder of the galaxy's deep and layered history, where the consequences of ancient decisions still ripple through time. Their ability to dominate psychers and open warp rifts is not just a tactical advantage, but a statement of their connection to the very forces that shaped the galaxy. This knowledge imbues their actions with a weight that transcends their immediate impact, suggesting a larger narrative at play. Their advanced psychic abilities also raise concerns about the limitations of current technologies and defenses. If the Enslavers are indeed connected to the Old Ones, it stands to reason that their understanding of psychic manipulation surpasses that of the Eldar, humanity, or even the Necrons. This puts them in a position to bypass conventional defenses, posing a threat that is difficult to counter with existing methods. Their ancient heritage may include abilities or tools that modern factions cannot comprehend, making them a wild card in the ever-shifting balance of power. Furthermore, the notion that the Enslavers are remnants of a past civilization introduces a chilling prospect. They may not be the only survivors. If they are one of many creations or offshoots of a forgotten race, the possibility exists that other, equally advanced and dangerous entities remain hidden within the warp or in unexplored regions of the galaxy. The Enslavers could be the first sign of a larger resurgence of ancient powers, reawakening as the galaxy teeters on the brink of another era of upheaval. The direct impact of this realization is felt most acutely by the psychers and warp-sensitive individuals across the galaxy. The Enslavers' ability to exploit psychic energy at such a refined level puts every psyker at risk, from the lowliest rogue to the most heavily guarded members of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica. This vulnerability threatens the Imperium's ability to maintain its control over the warp, its communication systems, and its military operations reliant on psychers. The fear of Enslaver domination creates a new dimension of paranoia, as the Imperium and other factions must now contend with a threat that preys on their most critical assets. The larger galactic powers, such as the Inquisition and the Adeptus Mechanicus, are forced to reconsider their strategies and priorities. The revelation of the Enslavers' origins necessitates a deeper investigation into ancient ruins, artifacts, and records, hoping to uncover methods to counteract their influence. However, this pursuit comes with significant risks, as delving into the secrets of a lost civilization often brings unintended consequences. The potential for accidentally awakening other remnants or attracting the Enslavers' attention only heightens the stakes. Ultimately, the Enslavers' ancient heritage reshapes their role within the galaxy, transforming them from enigmatic predators to key players in an ongoing struggle that spans millennia. Their actions are no longer seen as isolated incidents, but as echoes of an ancient design, reverberating through the ages and challenging the very foundations of the galaxy's current powers. Their existence serves as a stark reminder that the past is never truly dead, and that the galaxy's ancient history continues to shape its present and future in ways both profound and terrifying. Among the many facets of the Enslavers that capture the imagination of the Warhammer 40,000 fan community, their potential connection to ancient technologies and their enigmatic interaction with the Immaterium stand out as particularly compelling. These aspects not only highlight their uniqueness, but also raise questions about the limits of current knowledge and the nature of their influence on the galaxy. One of the most frequently discussed topics is the possibility that the Enslavers possess or have access to remnants of ancient warp-based technology. This theory stems from their uncanny ability to open stable rifts between the Immaterium and the material universe, a feat that even the most advanced races struggle to achieve consistently. Unlike the chaotic and often unpredictable breaches caused by demonic incursions, the portals created by the Enslavers appear methodical, as if following a precise and repeatable process. This level of control suggests that their methods might be rooted in knowledge or tools inherited from a forgotten era, possibly linked to the Old Ones or their contemporaries. Fans often speculate whether the Enslavers were designed or evolved to serve as guardians or manipulators of the warp. This theory aligns with their apparent affinity for controlling psychers and bending them to their will. If the Enslavers were once part of a race tasked with maintaining order within the warp, their current predatory nature could be a corrupted version of their original purpose. This idea gains traction from the consistent patterns in their behavior, which emphasize domination, control, and systematic expansion rather than the chaotic, emotion-driven motives typical of other warp entities. Another fascinating aspect is the enslavers' interaction with psychers. Their method of control is not a simple takeover, but a comprehensive domination of their victims' minds and psychic abilities. Fans debate whether this ability is purely instinctual or a learned skill passed down through their lineage. The idea that the enslavers might carry residual memories or techniques from an ancient civilization adds a layer of complexity to their depiction. This theory raises the possibility that they are not just predators, but also possess a kind of inherited intelligence, enabling them to adapt and refine their methods over millennia. The question of their physical form is another point of intrigue. Descriptions of the enslavers vary widely, from amorphous, shadow-like figures to towering entities of light and energy. This variability could indicate that their appearance is not fixed, but rather a reflection of the psychic energies they consume and the environment they inhabit. Some fans argue that this malleability supports the theory that they are remnants of a race deeply attuned to the warp, capable of altering their form to suit their needs. Others suggest that their true form is so alien that it cannot be comprehended by mortal minds, leading to distorted perceptions. The enigmatic silence of the enslavers adds another layer to their mystique. Unlike demons or other warp entities, they do not communicate directly with their victims or leave behind clear traces of their motives. This absence of dialogue or explanation has led to widespread speculation about their goals. Are they purely survival-driven, or do they serve a higher purpose? Some fans propose that the enslavers are executing a plan set in motion by their creators, one that extends far beyond mortal comprehension. This lack of clarity keeps them shrouded in mystery, making them a subject of endless debate. Their potential to be linked to other ancient powers also fuels discussion. If the enslavers are remnants of an ancient race, their relationship with the Necrons and the Satan becomes a tantalizing question. Did the enslavers and the Satan ever interact, given their shared focus on the manipulation of energy, albeit in vastly different forms? Could the enslavers have been a countermeasure devised by the Old Ones to combat the Catan, only to spiral out of control when the warp became destabilized? These speculative connections create rich narrative possibilities and deepen the complexity of the enslavers' place in the galaxy. Fans also discuss the possibility that the enslavers may represent a broader class of entities that predate the rise of chaos. If they are indeed remnants of an ancient race, it is conceivable that other, similarly powerful and enigmatic beings remain hidden in the warp or the unexplored reaches of the galaxy. This idea paints the enslavers as just one piece of a larger puzzle, hinting at untapped depths of the Warhammer 40,000 lore that could reshape the understanding of the Immaterium and its inhabitants. Theories about their resilience and longevity further highlight their uniqueness. The enslavers' ability to survive for countless millennia, adapting to the ever-changing dynamics of the warp and the material realm, suggests a level of durability and adaptability unmatched by most other entities. This enduring presence raises questions about their ultimate goals and whether their incursions into the material world are part of a larger strategy. Their sporadic appearances could be seen as deliberate testing of the galaxy's defenses, probing for weaknesses that might one day allow them to expand their influence on a much larger scale. These unique aspects of the enslavers, warp-based technology, psychic mastery, adaptive forms, enigmatic motives, and potential connections to other ancient powers, fuel the fascination and speculation surrounding them. Their story remains one of the most mysterious and evocative elements of Warhammer 40,000, captivating fans and driving them to explore the deeper meanings and implications of their existence. Within the enigmatic existence of the enslavers, their individuality is rarely discussed, given their collective behavior and intrinsic connection to the Immaterium. Yet, within their ranks, some figures stand out, either through sheer power, unique capabilities, or the extent of their influence. These notable individuals are whispered of in ancient records and inferred through fragmented accounts, their existence suggesting a hierarchy or structure within the Enslavers that remains largely uncharted. One of the most frequently referenced figures is known as the Harbinger of the Rift. This entity is believed to be one of the most powerful among the Enslavers, capable of generating warp breaches so vast they can engulf entire planetary systems. The Harbinger is characterized by its immense psychic presence, which allows it to dominate not just individual psychers, but entire populations simultaneously. Its reach is said to extend far beyond the immediate vicinity of its manifestation, with reports suggesting that its influence can span light years, subtly manipulating the minds of potential victims long before it fully emerges. Despite its power, the Harbinger appears only sporadically, leading some to speculate that its existence is tied to specific cosmic or psychic alignments. Another prominent figure is the Weaver of Threads, an enslaver that exhibits an unparalleled ability to manipulate and reshape the warp's fabric. Unlike others of its kind, which rely on brute psychic force or domination, the Weaver employs subtler methods, weaving intricate patterns of deception and manipulation. It is said to infiltrate psychic networks and planetary defense systems, using its advanced understanding of the warp to render its targets defenseless. The Weaver's hallmark is the complete disarray it leaves in its wake. Civilizations under its influence often collapse without realizing the true cause of their undoing. However, its preference for intricate schemes also exposes a weakness. The Weaver's plans can unravel if its threads are identified and severed. A figure of particular dread is the Gatekeeper, an enslaver renowned for its ability to maintain long-term warp breaches. The Gatekeeper serves as both a vanguard and a stabilizing force for enslaver incursions, anchoring their presence in the material realm and ensuring the continued flow of reinforcements. Unlike other enslavers, the Gatekeeper rarely engages directly with its prey, focusing instead on its singular task of sustaining the breach. This specialization makes it a critical asset during invasions, but it also renders it vulnerable to targeted strikes. If a Gatekeeper is destroyed, the warp rift it anchors often collapses, severing the connection and halting the enslaver's advance. Among the most feared is the Shadow of Silence, an enslaver whose primary strength lies in its unparalleled stealth. The Shadow moves undetected through the immaterium, slipping past defenses that would typically ward off warp entities. Its victims often fall under its sway without any warning, their minds quietly dominated until the enslaver's presence becomes undeniable. Unlike others of its kind, the Shadow appears to avoid large-scale operations, instead targeting isolated settlements and outposts. This focus on smaller targets makes it harder to track and counter, creating an aura of invincibility that has only deepened the fear surrounding its name. The Voice of Eternity is another figure often cited in ancient and fragmented accounts. Unlike the silence that typically defines the enslavers, the voice is said to communicate, albeit in ways incomprehensible to mortal minds. Its influence is marked by the sudden onset of auditory hallucinations and cryptic messages among psychers, many of whom are driven mad by its presence. The voice's apparent ability to communicate raises questions about its purpose. Some scholars speculate that it may be a leader or emissary among the enslavers, acting as a conduit for their collective will. However, this capacity also exposes a potential vulnerability, as its need to reach out to psychers makes its presence more detectable than other enslavers. Lastly, there is the enigmatic figure referred to in Eldar lore as the First Sower. According to these accounts, the First Sower may be the original progenitor of the enslavers, a being that predates their known incursions and serves as a nexus of their power. The First Sower is credited with planting the seeds of their parasitic nature, spreading their influence throughout the galaxy's psychic landscape. Unlike other enslavers, the First Sower is described as a creator rather than a destroyer, its actions focused on ensuring the long-term survival and evolution of its kind. Whether the First Sower still exists or has faded into the annals of history remains a subject of speculation, but its legacy is evident in the continued resilience and adaptability of the enslavers. Each of these figures contributes to the Enslavers' enduring reputation as one of the galaxy's most enigmatic and terrifying threats. Their unique qualities, strengths, and weaknesses suggest a complexity within their ranks that belies their seemingly singular purpose. These individuals stand as both symbols of the Enslavers' ancient heritage and harbingers of the devastation they bring, each embodying a facet of the mystery and menace that defines their kind. The debate surrounding the Enslavers and their possible connection to an ancient race is rife with unanswered questions and competing theories. These unresolved mysteries fuel fascination among scholars and fans alike, as the implications of their true nature could reshape the understanding of both the Immaterium and the galaxy's ancient history. One of the most contentious questions revolves around the exact origin of the Enslavers. If they are indeed remnants of a race created or influenced by the Old Ones, why do they lack the clear technological or cultural hallmarks seen in other creations of that era? The Old Ones were known for crafting biologically and psychically sophisticated beings, but the Enslavers seem entirely divorced from any material remnants of a civilization. Some theorists argue that they may not be remnants in the traditional sense, but instead an accidental byproduct of the Old Ones' manipulation of the warp. This possibility raises a troubling question. Did the Old Ones unintentionally create a threat they could neither control nor eliminate? Another unresolved issue is the apparent lack of any organized hierarchy among the Enslavers. While individual figures like the Harbinger of the Rift or the Voice of Eternity suggest that some possess unique roles or capabilities, there is no evidence of a structured leadership akin to the Chaos Gods or other warp entities. This absence of a discernible command structure has led to conflicting theories. Some suggest that the Enslavers operate as a collective consciousness, where each entity contributes to a larger, unifying purpose. Others argue that they are wholly individualistic, acting only in self-interest while opportunistically collaborating when necessary. The implications of either theory are significant, as a unified collective would make them far more dangerous than a disorganized collection of predators. The purpose of their incursions into real space also remains a matter of heated speculation. Are they driven solely by survival, seeking psychers as gateways to sustain themselves and propagate, or do their actions serve a greater agenda? Theories proposing a larger purpose often link the Enslavers to ancient conflicts, suggesting they could be carrying out a forgotten directive left by their creators. Others argue that their motives are unknowable, rooted in an alien perspective that defies mortal comprehension. If they do have a greater goal, understanding it could be key to predicting and countering their movements. A related mystery concerns the extent of their influence on the Immaterium itself. The Enslavers' ability to manipulate warp rifts and dominate psychers suggests a profound understanding of the Immaterium's mechanics. However, this raises the question of whether they are actively shaping the warp or merely exploiting its natural properties. If they are shaping it, their role in the wider ecosystem of the Immaterium may be far more significant than previously thought. Could their actions contribute to the warp's instability, or are they stabilizing forces in ways that are not yet understood? One of the most tantalizing questions involves their potential connection to other ancient races, such as the Necrons and the Satan. If the Enslavers are truly remnants of a pre-war in Heaven era, it is plausible that they encountered or interacted with these powers. While no direct evidence supports this theory, some scholars speculate that the Enslavers may have been designed as a countermeasure against the Catan, a psychic force to combat the Necrons' technological supremacy. If this is true, their continued presence could represent a forgotten legacy of that ancient conflict, one that persists in the shadow of modern galactic history. The role of the Enslavers in the development of psychic species is another contentious topic. Their tendency to exploit psychers raises the question of whether they influenced the evolution of psychic abilities in sentient beings. Did their early incursions shape the way species like humanity or the Eldar developed their psychic potential, either as a reaction to or consequence of enslaver activity? Some theorists suggest that the enslavers' interactions with psychers are not purely parasitic, but may have left lasting imprints on the genetic or psychic makeup of their victims, subtly influencing the course of evolution. Perhaps the most unsettling theory is the possibility that the enslavers are not unique, but one of many remnants of ancient psychic entities. If they are survivors of a larger race, what happened to the rest? Are there other, equally powerful entities hidden within the warp or lying dormant in the galaxy, waiting for conditions to align for their return? This prospect shifts the narrative from one focus solely on the enslavers to a broader concern about what other ancient threats might still exist, unseen and unchallenged. Finally, there is the question of their ultimate fate. The enslavers' sporadic activity suggests that they are not in decline but lying in wait, possibly gathering strength for a larger resurgence. If their incursions are becoming more frequent, as some reports suggest, what could be driving this change? Are they responding to increased psychic activity across the galaxy, or is there a deeper, more deliberate strategy at play? Understanding their long-term goals, if any, could be critical in preparing for the potential consequences of their resurgence. These unresolved questions and competing theories ensure that the enslavers remain one of the most enigmatic and debated topics within the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Their nature as potential remnants of an ancient race challenges existing narratives, forcing scholars and fans alike to confront the limits of their understanding and consider the deeper, more unsettling truths hidden within the galaxy's past. The long-term implications of the enslavers' existence and their potential connection to an ancient race carry profound consequences for the galaxy. Their ability to exploit psychic energy, coupled with their presumed ancient heritage, paints a future where their role in the universe could evolve into something far more significant. The question of their growth, adaptability, and the influence of their origins raises both hope for understanding and fear of escalation. If the enslavers truly carry the remnants of their creator's knowledge, their actions might not remain confined to sporadic incursions. Over millennia, they could refine their methods, mastering technologies or psychic practices lost to the galaxy. Their capacity to dominate psychers and manipulate warp rifts suggests that their understanding of the immaterium could surpass even the most advanced races. If their abilities are the fragmented remains of their ancestors' designs, it is possible that they could rediscover or redevelop those capabilities, unlocking new ways to exploit the warp and expand their influence. One potential long-term consequence is the enslavers becoming more than opportunistic predators. If their connection to the Old Ones or another ancient race grants them latent knowledge or buried instincts, they may evolve into a force with strategic intent. They might move beyond isolated manipulation to orchestrating galaxy-wide disruptions, targeting psychic nodes, and destabilizing warp-based infrastructure on a massive scale. This evolution would mark a shift from their current status as a sporadic threat to a sustained existential danger. The increasing prevalence of psychers across the galaxy creates fertile ground for the enslavers to expand their reach. Humanity's reliance on psychic communication, navigation, and warfare provides countless vulnerabilities. Similarly, the Eldar and other warp-attuned races remain at risk of enslaver incursions. As the warp grows more unstable due to the rise of chaos and intensifying psychic activity, the enslavers may find the conditions increasingly favorable for larger-scale operations. This trend suggests that the enslavers are not a fading relic of the past, but a growing shadow over the galaxy's future. From a broader perspective, the enslavers' existence challenges the balance of power in the galaxy. If their abilities continue to develop, or if they access dormant knowledge left by their presumed creators, they could rival or even surpass the influence of established factions. The implications of such a rise would be catastrophic. Entire systems could fall under their control, with psychers turned into tools for their proliferation. The galaxy's already tenuous stability could unravel as civilizations are consumed from within, their populations enslaved and their resources diverted toward sustaining the enslavers' expansion. However, their ancient lineage also presents a potential opportunity. If the enslavers are tied to the old ones or another advanced race, studying them could yield insights into technologies or practices long lost to the galaxy. The Adeptus Mechanicus, the Inquisition, or even the Eldar might seek to exploit this connection, using the enslavers as a key to unlocking forgotten knowledge. While this approach carries immense risks, particularly the danger of provoking or empowering the enslavers, the potential rewards could reshape the galaxy's understanding of the warp and its manipulation. The question of whether the enslavers could reclaim the full legacy of their ancestors looms large. If their current abilities are but a fraction of what their creators possessed, the rediscovery of those powers could elevate them to a level of influence unseen since the War in Heaven. This prospect is deeply unsettling, as it suggests that the enslavers' future could mirror the destructive heights of their progenitors. In this scenario, their incursions would no longer be isolated events, but part of a larger resurgence of ancient power, reshaping the galaxy in ways that are both unpredictable and potentially irreversible. Conversely, the enslavers' ancient origins could also act as their Achilles' heel. If they are remnants of a race that fell to their own hubris or the consequences of their actions, understanding that downfall could provide a blueprint for countering the enslavers. Studying their weaknesses and the limitations of their powers might reveal vulnerabilities that could be exploited to curb their influence. This approach, while fraught with peril, offers a glimmer of hope in a galaxy desperate for solutions to the myriad threats it faces. The long-term effects of the enslavers' presence also extend to the philosophical and cultural dimensions of the galaxy's factions. Their existence forces the Imperium, the Eldar, and other races to confront uncomfortable truths about their reliance on psychic power and the dangers it invites. This introspection might lead to reforms in how psykers are trained, controlled, or integrated into society, reducing the risks posed by their exploitation. Alternatively, the fear of the enslavers could drive more extreme measures, such as the widespread suppression or extermination of psykers, further destabilizing an already fractured galaxy. In a broader cosmic sense, the enslavers underscore the enduring legacy of ancient powers and the ripple effects of their actions. They remind the galaxy's inhabitants that the past is never truly gone, and that the echoes of long-lost civilizations continue to shape the present. Their story serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of tampering with forces beyond comprehension and the dangers of underestimating the enduring influence of the Immaterium. Ultimately, the enslavers occupy a pivotal position in the galaxy's unfolding narrative. Their potential to grow stronger and wield the knowledge of their ancestors makes them a threat that cannot be ignored. Whether they rise to dominate the galaxy or are undone by their own heritage, their presence ensures that the story of the galaxy remains one of perpetual tension, with the shadows of the past casting long and uncertain echoes into the future.